Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Big John here. I'm in London actually right now, guys. That's where I'm in London,
Wow.
undisclosed area in London, and all tonight's about free speech. As a lot of people would have known, we've had a lot of court cases past couple of days. Ruby Akabana in Southport has pleaded guilty, so he's getting sentenced on Thursday for 3 murders and 10 attempted murders, as far as I know. Ricky Jones, the councillor who went like that, he was up, but his trial has been adjourned until August. So I went up there yesterday, and there was a soldier who'd been stabbed. His attacker was up today, but that's been adjourned. Good evening, Serena. But one at Patriots turned up at court yesterday, and he had a Peter Lynch banner, and he said, "There's any chance of a couple of photos?" I said, "What you on about? I'm going to do a speech." So I did 3 speeches about what Peter had done, which was nothing, just a granddad who wanted to protect his country, always had a banner. And I think the worst thing he did was push up against a police line. And you know what? I've seen that happen in Dover, I've seen it happen in Manchester, I've seen it happen in London. Nobody gets arrested. But Peter was arrested, ended up getting locked up, a 2-year, 8-month sentence, and then apparently took his own life in jail. And that is a big if. But you know, it's free speech, and Peter never said anything wrong. He was just against the WHO. These are things I've talked about. He was against our corrupt government, and as we know, we've got 2-tier policing right now. Our government is the worst. We've had the worst 30 years of governments in all the time that Britain and England had been England, unfortunately. We just had 14 years of the Tories, terrible Tories, and now we've got Labour in, and it looks like Keir Starmer is oppressing everybody's free speech, which is definitely not a good thing. Thank you, Tommy. Good evening. This is a National Housing Party, guys. You can see a PayPal link there. We need leaflets and stuff like that. You can see also at the bottom 2 emails, mine and Pat's, and the phone number as well. Oh, corrupt system exposer. I'm guessing that's Andy Marie. But yeah, so yeah, please donate to us, join the National Housing Party. And you know, we stand for free speech. You know what I mean? There's not much that we won't curtail on that anybody wants to say. We talk about things like the WHO, the WEF. We talk about the globalist system. We talk about the influence that other countries have in the UK through donations and things like that. And we're allowed to talk about these things, you know, and it's very scary that they're shutting us down, even at court cases and stuff like that. And, you know, you might upset this court case if you go on about it. No, I don't think so. We should go back to the old days. And Paul will remember this, when Myra Hindley and like Fred West were arrested, that the streets were lined with people shouting them down when they were going to courts and stuff like that.
Myra Hindley and Ian Brady,
Ian Brady, yeah. We need to bring a bit of that back, community spirit and free speech and everything. But anyway, this is the National Housing Party. My name's John Lawrence. Tonight we're joined by the mighty Paul Rimmer, and we're joined us as well by our very own Stuart Boniface. Paul there. But Paul, free speech, tell us about it.
We're free-born Englishmen, and our tradition of liberty goes back a long way, to the Saxons, maybe even further. And, you know, it was all encoded in the Magna Carta, which said we're autonomous, lawful entities who the king has to respect. Before the Magna Carta, the king could do what he wanted. But the Stephen Langton, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury, he said, look, the king has got to respect the law of God as revealed in the Bible. And it says in the Bible He who the Lord makes free is free indeed. If you're a Christian, you're a free man, you're a free spirit. And that was challenged, of course, by a lot of kings who didn't like respecting the freedom of their subjects. And it all came to a head with Charles I, who believed in the divine right of kings, that he was anointed by God and he could do whatever he wanted. But the English people rose up against Charles I, led by Oliver Cromwell. And when they rose up, they said, the people under God are sovereign, and you've got no right to be a tyrant in this country. We are freeborn Englishmen. And that spirit of liberty began to flow and grow. But I mean, they still tried to take it off us. We had another Catholic king, James II, who again began to restrict the freedom of speech and the liberties of England. And William of Orange, he crossed the channel from Holland. And on his banner, on his ships, he said, I have come to defend the liberty of England and the Protestant faith. And when he began, the Glorious Revolution also involved a constitution which guaranteed the freedom, the liberty of Englishmen. And we contrasted that against the French. The French had an absolute monarch. They didn't have the freedoms we had, especially the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom to express yourself. And we actually fought a war against the French, the Napoleonic Wars. And we fought before that in the 7 Years' War, which was like the First World War. And in that war, we had a song the British people would sing against the French. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, ever, ever shall be slaves. Who were the slaves? The French were the slaves because they didn't have the liberty of the Englishman. This is our God-given right. No one can take it from us, not king, not parliament, not anybody. And Donald Trump, in his inauguration speech yesterday, said, we are restoring the freedom of speech, the freedoms of the American people. You cannot use the state to prosecute your political opponents. You cannot criminalize people simply because they disagree with you. And this is what's happening now. These things like hate speech, it's just a label. You hate the truth being spoken. This is what the establishment does. When we challenge them, when we point out their domineering ways, their anti-democratic ways, their conspiratorial ways, when they abuse us, we rise up against it. And this mass uncontrolled immigration is a form of abuse of the British people. And we have a right to speak out against it. But they're saying it's hate speech. Where does this label come from? It's got no standing in law. Hate is just a strong dislike of something. For example, I hate Satanism. I can criticize Satan. I can criticize his followers. I can criticize what he advocates. And I can hate it if I so desire. If I have a strong dislike of it, so be it. They're saying now that no, you can't hate Satanists. You can't hate Satanism. You have to respect it and tolerate it. Well, this is nonsense, because I will not tolerate evil. The Bible says we ought to hate evil. This is a strong dislike of something which is repugnant, and we have the right to do that. We have the right to hate. There is nothing wrong with hate. It's just an emotion. There is love, what you support, and there is hate, what you disagree with strongly. And the idea that you criminalize people who hate what you support is an abuse of power. It's a form of tyranny. Now, I'm not advocating violence. The European Human Rights Act says there's two limits to free speech. One is you cannot advocate violence. You cannot incite to violence. Fully accept that. I think violence is out of order. But now the government is saying you can't incite hatred. Hang on, hatred's an emotion. Hatred's just a question of taste. You can't make hatred a criminal concept. It's nonsense. The other limitation that the European Court of Human Rights put on free speech was that you can't defame people. which means basically you can't tell blatant lies about people. For example, if I said John Lawrence was a dwarf and I put that on the internet, and John could quite rightly take me to court and say, I'm not a dwarf, I'm 6'3", don't you dare talk to me like that. And that's acceptable because you're telling blatant lies, and lies can be contradicted through the legal system. But the idea that your opinions and your tastes are going to be controlled by the legal system is absolute nonsense. It's contrary to everything in England's tradition, in British tradition, and American tradition, and we're going to stand up against it. And like if Keir Starmer wants to impose a Stalinist tyranny on the British people, we're going to fight back against that. And now we've got Donald Trump on our side, and I believe we're going to win. Stuart.
Good evening, everybody. I absolutely agree with every word you say there, Paul. I don't know if you've seen much of what Donald Trump's been doing with his executive orders. There's a few there that we could do with over here. Closing the borders, even putting the army there and the Navy, protect our borders. Have a moratorium, let it all settle for a few years. I would personally deport a lot of the young men that have come in, single men. I don't think they should be here at all. The ones that have come in the last maybe 5-10 years, aged 18 to 40 of fighting age, single, shouldn't be here. When it comes to hate speech, well, if I said I hate Marmite, and I'm going to do everything I can to persuade people to hate it as well, I could speak about that. But if I went, right, we've got to smash up the Marmite factory and kill everybody there, that's obviously wrong, totally wrong. Incitement to violence, incitement to damage should never be allowed. But other than that, free speech is absolute. I should be able to stand on a street corner and I should be able to say what I want, as long as I'm not calling for somebody's head or somebody's to be damaged. Other than that, free speech is absolute. What Starmer's doing is awful. I mean, we campaigned to get rid of him. Even we had luck of that, we'd be stuck with what's her face? Angela, has it Rayner? Yeah. Could you imagine her being our leader? Be as bad as Starmer. We need a new way forward. We need new voices to be heard. Diverse range of voices to be heard. And John mentioned earlier about foreign country influence. We can't have politicians accepting donations from foreign countries or organisations that support and lobby for those countries. None of it. Foreign aid, we need to look at that as well. When Blair changed foreign aid, at the time, when we gave money to countries to help develop them, it was British companies doing the work, employing local workers. So a lot of the money that we gave out actually came back into our economy. Blair took that away. So that we just give countries money willy-nilly when we're suffering here. Needs to stop. Absolutely. What do you guys think?
Getting back on that, the freedom of speech here. Why are the politicians now so keen to limit our freedom of speech? Obviously, social media comes to mind straight away. When the media is strictly controlled was a few outlets, the newspapers, the legacy media, and a few broadcasting companies. And they were owned by the rich and powerful, and they disseminated the establishment's message. It was manipulation and control of the people. And we saw that most blatantly during COVID, where any dissenting voices were squashed. Now, but with social media, especially now that Elon Musk has bought X, he has released the voice of the people, the Vox Popula. And people are realizing that the issues we take seriously, such as mass immigration, such as overtaxation, such as the abuse of our children, these are held right across society by millions of people who want these issues addressed. The establishment likes to brush them under the carpet. But even beyond that, the establishment are playing a game. And we began to realize that they're not ruling in our interest. They're not ruling on our behalf. They're ruling on behalf of the globalists, the international institutions, the international billionaire class, the international tribe. They're ruling on behalf of these people. And they're not listening to us. And they don't really want to be accountable to us. This is why the social media has been so important, because it's freed us to criticize the establishment. And we begin to realize it's the people against the elite, against this. Donald Trump said it yesterday. They've robbed us. They've abused us. They've manipulated us. We want to take control of our countries again. Now, they call it populism. You see, you know why they use the word populism? Because they believe they stand for democracy. It's not democracy. The populism is when the democratic will of the people goes against the elite, when the elite can't control us and manipulate us. So they stick another label on us. They love labeling people. We're populists, and you know and Starmer uses this term all the time: far right, extreme right. He won't label terrorists Muslims, but he'll label English people who want their rights far right. We're not far right, but we're not far wrong. As Donald Trump said yesterday, we stand for common sense. That's what we're saying. What we speak is just fairness. It's the norm. It's what's been the norm through history. Our borders have been protected through history. Yeah, people have come to this country, but only if we wanted them to come. They haven't been able to just impose themselves upon us. This invasion across the channel, this illegal invasion into our country, this phenomenal wave of immigration, over 12 million people, 12 to 14 million people since 1997. This is not normal. This is the takeover of our country. This is the fulfillment of a plan which we, the common people, are being excluded from. It's called the Kalergi Plan, and it's about the replacement of the British and other European peoples in their own country by immigration from the Middle East, from Africa, from the Far East, from the Indian subcontinent, by people who have no real right to be here. I mean, they are not coming as individuals. They're not marrying into the British way of life. They're not being part. They're forming colonies in our country. And they don't want us to point this out, because they realize that if we point this out, if we notice this, if we rise up against it, it will cause friction. And they don't want friction. They want us to bow down and be submissive and just allow our country to be taken from us, just allow our people to be replaced in their own land by alien cultures. And this is what's happened in the States. The people have said, no, we don't want that. They've risen up against it. And in a sense, Reform and the National Housing Party and other parties and what is called the populist right are saying, we want to actually have an open debate about this. It's all being done under the carpet. It's all being done surreptitiously. This is what the Tories did. The last 14 years, the Tories have kept the floodgates opened. Tony Blair opened floodgates. He didn't tell us in 1997 that he was going to let in millions of people to flood our welfare state, to bleed us dry. to take over our housing, to push us out of our own cities. Tony Blair never told us that in 1997. He pretended that he was all for the British people. It was a lie. These people have manipulated us. And this is why we need free speech. And this is the power of the internet. We are getting our voice out there and we're changing things politically. It's happened in America. We're going to see radical change now. The globalists are on the retreat. It's happening in Europe, Germany. There's an election next month. The AfD are on the rise. They've now got 1 in 4 of the German people behind them, 25%. They've come from nowhere. This is happening. We've seen it in Austria. We've seen it in Sweden. We've seen it in Holland. We're seeing it in France. The people are saying, no, this is our country. Stop labeling patriots as hate mongers. We don't hate anybody. We love our country. We love our traditions. We love our history. And we want to preserve it and pass it on to the next generation. We don't hate anybody. We've welcomed people in the past who've integrated into our society. We've had the Huguenots come here. We've had even people came, the Jews came. I mean, that's been more problematic at the end of the 19th century. We had the West Indians come in the 1950s. They've integrated into our society. But now we've got such a wave of alien cultures, Islam, Hinduism, West Africans, and they're forming colonies. And they're disturbing the coherence of our society. They're disturbing the harmony of our society. They're costing us an arm and a leg because 80% remain on benefits. And we've got to point this out. And that's not hate speech. That's pointing out how things are changing. We are being realistic and we need to make our voices heard. So what I would say to people is, don't be intimidated by Keir Starmer. Don't be intimidated. I mean, they got a new guy at an Attorney General now, Richard Hermer, right? Who goes to the same synagogue as Starmer. He's a lawyer and he's anti-British and he's pro-mass immigration and he's anti-democratic. He doesn't want the people to have the freedom of speech. He is the guy who's pushing these attacks on people who are posting on social media and who are getting horrendous prison sentences. This is shocking. America's shocked by this. America is shocked by the way the traditions of England, which they see as the source of all liberty around the world, are being stamped on. It's like a boot on our faces. And we're rebelling against this politically. The National Housing Party is fighting back day by day on social media. And we're supporting those who want to attack and overcome the Lib Lab Con, which have abused us for far too long. So freedom of speech is what we need and what we've got to exercise. John, exercise your freedom of speech.
Right. Couple of things that, like Stuart said about like influence from other countries. It's our freedom of speech. Don't be influenced from other countries. That's my opinion, and it is a good opinion. You know what I mean? We want to better ourselves by ourselves, so we don't need other people doing it. And I'm totally against any kind of financial, political influence from countries outside of Western. I just think that's my opinion and that's my free speech. So, and Paul went on about new articles and new figures are coming out now that are showing that the migrants are a drain to our resources. Not like they've said for a long time, oh, this, that, and the other, and oh, they bring a net income and GDP into. They don't, unfortunately. They've been lying to us or covering up the figures. And it's our freedom of speech. So I can say that because it's an article in the paper done by a reporter from statistics from the ONS. So I'm allowed to say it. But what it is, they're locking you up for stating them facts right now. They're locking you up for stating facts. That's what they're doing. And as we're seeing with the Southport troubles, people were locked up for posts on social media. Meanwhile, we have around 40,000 possible jihadis in amongst our people. 40,000. And MI5 said the threat is not from the far right, it is from Islamic extremism. That's what they've said, MI5. Go and research up yourself. MI5 or MI6 have said that. But also, Labour are curtailing our free speech by bringing an update in the hate speech laws, which are already bad enough, but they're making it even worse. And they're going down the route of you can't even say anything about immigrants or people coming over on the boats because you're going to get a conviction. You're going to get a hate crime conviction, and we've even got a non-crime hate crime. Believe it or not. So a non-crime hate crime, even though
a non-crime hate incident, John.
a
non-crime hate incident.
And even though you don't get convicted of anything, that note goes on a record, so it adds to statistics, and that is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Lilith, what is far right? Exactly. It's just being right. Patriotic Paul, thank you. National Housing Party, guys, you see our links there, our emails there, donation link there. Please donate to us. We want leaflets. We've got elections coming up in most places, or some are happening, but we want leaflets and want some money for them. Please donate. Thank you very much. But yeah, we're at a dangerous crossroads now in our time of, as Paul said, what we can say on social media, this, that, and the other, the things that we do. And I mean, particular case is Tommy's case, but everyone going on about what happened in court, but they don't go on about the crime at the beginning, what happened at the beginning, and, is in it all his right to call out corrupt councils that pay £250,000 to silence people. He's in his right to say that. And, I'm in my right to talk about things that have been in the paper and stuff. I've been to hundreds of court cases, guys, so I know where I stand on that kind of point. But our free speech is valuable to us. It's part of who we are, and we're going to lose it if we don't do something. Stuart.
Well, I totally agree that we've got to do something. We need to link up with other parties, maybe expand our party as much as possible. So out there, please support us. You see the links on the screen. We need help. We need expansion. We need more people, more diverse ideas. And as both of you guys said, we need to rise up and take our country back. I believe that there is a Freedom March. I think it's possibly in support of Tommy, to free Tommy.
Yeah. 1st of February.
First, is it?
Yeah. 1st of February, central London. The 5th of February, you've got a Veterans March. But, if you want to shout and scream, get on the marches. At least it's a platform to springboard you to other things. I started on the marches. So did Paul then. We progressed and went into the political standing. Paul's ran for Mayor of Liverpool. I'm running in local elections. You know what I mean? It's a platform and it's a springboard to get you going. So yeah, get on the marches, meet people, like-minded people. Think about what you want to do next. Think about if you want to run in an election in your area. If you know people in your, get in contact with us. Honestly, get in contact with us. We're good at getting areas leafleted with our recruitment leaflet and stuff like that, and I'll talk to anybody about any issue on the door that they have. I'm not afraid. If they talk about the rape gangs, for instance, I'm not afraid to not say nothing. I'm not politically correct. I'll tell them what I think. If they want to talk about the WF and WHO, I'll tell them what I think. If they want to talk about mass immigration and boatloads of people coming on boats that we don't know, I could talk about that. I could talk about every issue that you might have locally or nationally at the door. So join the National Housing Party, please. Get donating, please, people. I want to see some donations tonight. But,
you've raised an important issue there, John. About the rape gangs. This is the danger of suppressing freedom of speech. You allow problems, social problems, such as the abuse of our girls by these Pakistani rape gangs who prostituted them and drugged them and profited from them. And the police were complicit, as were the politicians, But because people were scared to speak out, because we didn't have a platform at the time, it mushroomed and it went to 50, 60 cities all over the UK. It became a national network. It became a monster. They reckon up to 1 million girls were abused. This is the danger if you suppress freedom of speech. Now, when Nick Griffin and Mark Collett, who were in the BNP, spoke out against these grooming gangs, these rape gangs, they were taken to court, and they had 2 court cases, which fortunately they survived and won, but they were put under the cosh. I mean, the cases themselves are very stressful. I mean, we're not talking now about abstract things. We're talking about reality. I have faced 3 court cases for freedom of speech. The first was in Liverpool about an exhibition at the Anglican Cathedral where it was supposedly about Anne Frank, but it was really promoting Islam. And I asked the question, do Muslims have freedom in this country to marry who they want? Of course, they don't. I mean, these girls, they're forced into arranged marriages. For asking that question, I was taken to court. I won the case, but they took me to court. When they flew the gay flag above the police station, I said that's not appropriate. We don't want those sort of flags above the police station. We're happy with the Union flag above the police station. I was arrested, and a court case came from that. They tried to prosecute me, but I flipped it on them and prosecuted the Chief Constable of Liverpool for illegally flying that flag above the police station. And I won because Keir Starmer had to change the law. No, I'm sorry, this was later. Eric Pickles had to change the law to make the gay flag an official police flag, so I couldn't prosecute them. There was a third case in Northern Ireland where I was arrested in an anti-terrorist rally. I was arrested for hate speech. And what did I actually say at this rally? I said that I'm a Christian and my religion is a religion of love. I stand against evil, but I don't hate anybody. And that was a 7-month court case in Northern Ireland. So I've been prosecuted for hate speech and won 3 cases. But I will not be suppressed. I will stand my ground, because if I believe what I'm doing is just and fair and true, I'm going to do it. I don't care what the law is. If they make phony laws to say you can't speak out against injustices in our society, I'm going to ignore those laws, because injustices must be confronted. And I know as a freeborn Englishman, I have that right. What they're saying now, because we live in a multicultural society, because we have it's like minorities are given these special privileges that they can't be criticised. Now, supposedly the majority, which is the British people, we can take it, because we're the greater number. But in many cities now, we're not the greater number. We're being beaten around. I mean, it's not only the Muslim grooming gangs and the jihadists. We have an epidemic of black crime on the streets of London, knife crime. We've got the right to say that, just to notice it. They're saying you can't even notice this. John knows what it's like in Manchester. They've got the knife crime problem there. A lot of it's linked to African drug gangs. And we've seen a lot of these troubles in London and the big cities in Birmingham. We've got to actually name these things. These groups are coming into our society and causing chaos. I mean, we see, again, the abuse of our welfare state. Again, we've got to be able to point out the reality, what's happening, the social reality. What they want to do with these hate speech laws is control people naming what's going on. Certain groups are given special protection. And of course, let's name the group that's given protection above all else, the Jewish people. We talk about interference in our politics. What about this group, the Labour Friends of Israel, or the Conservative Friends of Israel? And these people get money, they get goodies, they serve the state of Israel. In America, you have the AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. They claim to control every single member of Congress in America. Now, Israel has interest, and they have the legitimate right to express their interest, but they don't have the right to control our politicians, to finance our politicians, to put our politicians in their wallet. No, they don't. So we have the right to say this is outrageous and it's got to stop. Their interference in our domestic politics has got to stop. And if people conspire, if we have questions about events, what was 9/11 all about? Who was behind it? Who were the dancing Israelis? Why was it covered up? There are a lot of issues. We have the right to raise those issues. The assassination of JFK, who was behind it? We still don't know. Donald Trump said he's going to tell us. The people in power, they just want to control us and manipulate us and do as they want. But we, the people, and this is the English tradition of liberty, we, the people, have the right to call them to account. That's why we voted to leave the European Union. We wanted to know who was ruling over us, and if we didn't like them, we wanted to get rid of them. In the European Union, we don't know who's controlling us. That's why we left. This is all about freedom. Freedom is so important. Without freedom, you're nothing. You're just a pawn in their game. And that's why you've got to have the courage to speak up and to stand out, even if you get arrested, even if they want to stick a label on you. As I say, I've got no hatred in my heart to anybody. As a Christian, I respect all people, but I will stand against evil, and I will point out those groups who are abusing us, and I will point out our rights as British people, and I will always do that until my dying breath. Stuart.
I
No, you're on mute. Go on, Stuart.
Sorry. I personally think that we need to return to the common law. You mentioned the Magna Carta. If you inflict damage on someone, cost them money, there's a victim, then, you're up for prosecution. But apart from that, you should be able to say what you want, do what you want, go where you want. And they're limiting us to all of that, all with this facial recognition, which is not just facial recognition. It's going to know the person by the way they walk, I can't remember what they call it now, but all the airports are now going to have it. So when you walk through the turnstile, there's not even going to be somebody checking your passport. America's already got it. You just walk through. If it knows you, it lets you through because it already knows your face. It knows the way you walk. And that information all leads to where you live, where you work, everything about you. They want full control, not just of our speech, but of our movements. All the restrictions, all the restrictions on driving.
It's definitely
going back now, apparently, to get rid of the combustion engine when we haven't got an electrical system that will handle all of the change, and that's deliberate. Our roads are breaking up as they are. The electric cars, 30 to 50% heavier than a normal car. So that's more wear and tear on the roads, gets everybody moaning. The public transport's, pretty pants. Can't rely on it.
Let me just weigh in. Like you said, Stuart, 15 minutes is all this scanning your eyes and facial recognition. That's all entailed in cutting down what we do, what we say, what we can do with our money and stuff like that. It's all related to that. I just want to go to the chat. So the lodger you mentioned, Raja Mia, Bangladeshi, and to tell you the truth, can't stand the guy, although his words and the stuff he's brought out is righteous. It wasn't him just called out the Mayor of Great Manchester. Plenty other people did it. Weren't all on him. Oldham Council's really corrupt. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Elon, for bringing Oldham into the light, because now they're in Parliament talking about what they want to do next, even though they said there's no inquiry. Victim Sam has spoken to Kemi Badenoch, and senior members of all the other parties about this grooming thing in Oldham. So fantastic and all that lot. But, you know, people have been talking about grooming and that in Oldham for a good few years. And anyone with any noggin will know that it's intimately linked to Rochdale, but we haven't been able to say anything because all they do in the council chamber, they'll call you them buzzwords like racist. This is what Oldham Council's like. It's nearly every week, and somebody's saying that to somebody else in the council. And, we've always been intimately linked, and people knew the failures years ago, but we've not, no one's listened to us. Our political class are deaf, blind, and dumb. They won't say anything. But thank you, Elon, because he brought a lot out into the public. He's making people talk, which is what we want to do. Stuart said we need to come together. Lots more people now are coming together because of what he said and what's happening within the grooming gang issue. And the senior levels in the government, guys, senior levels. Kemi Badenoch had a meeting last week with Sam, the girl who's in the Oldham report. And so, things are looking up, and hopefully our government will change their tune and do something. I don't really want an inquiry. We've got evidence already to arrest people and convict them on charges. And I don't just mean the Pakistani community, I mean social services, people within the council, people within the police, public people who work for the council, bottom ranks or whatever. We have right to arrest these people, and we have evidence against these people. Now, until there is any accountability, I can't see anything settling down. I can see more trouble on our streets, not just from English people. I can see from a lot of different communities in the UK. So, we need accountability. But again, I've got to thank Elon. He's brought everything into the light. Everyone's talking about it, and big up Oldham. But Stuart's right. The 15-minute cities, the restrictions on us, the Paul said the COVID debacle, all that was setting us up to control us and limit us to what we can do. And that involves free speech as well. Paul?
Yeah, to go even beyond free speech, to talk about the political dimension. These politicians, they're corrupt, they're bought, they're billionaires. They come into public life. Maybe they've got a professional job. I mean, some of these Labour MPs, you wonder what job they've done. They've been like social services and things like that. They're really lame people. But they leave millionaires because they connect with people who begin to finance them. And they do the bidding of these people. They're supposed to represent us. They are accountable to us. The way they stop us, John has hinted at that there just before, they stick labels on us. So if you criticize the power of the Israeli lobby in our politics, you're anti-Semitic. If you criticize the behavior of these Muslim grooming gangs, you're Islamophobic. If you criticize the level of criminality on our streets, you're racist. They use these labels to stop us criticizing them and hold them to account. Our politicians get easily corrupted. And this is why we need new forces. We've got the Reform Party. We're the National Housing Party. We've got other forces. We need the people have got to be active. We've got to have the courage to step out and engage in the political process, to speak out on the social media. We have the social media. I'm watching America, the J6 prisoners being released, and the MAGA army, and the courage they've shown. They battled relentlessly for 4 years. The FBI, the democratic machine has tried to crush them. But the American people have this spirit. They will not give way. The First Amendment, the freedom of speech. This is why freedom of speech is so important. You do not give way. You fight back. And we've got, this Labour government now has got tyranny at its heart. It wants to suppress the British people. It wants to abuse the British people. It wants to manipulate the British people. And it wants to replace the British people. with these immigrants from the third world. This is what we face with this Labour government, let's be honest. And they're going to use the full power of the law to criminalise political opposition. This is what Donald Trump spoke against yesterday. And hopefully we're going to have a different voice coming from across the Atlantic, which is going to encourage us. John has said, thanks Elon, thanks Donald Trump, thanks to the American, the MAGA movement, because there's a spirit of resistance, a spirit which honours liberty and exercises liberty. And we've got to be part of that spirit. What we hear coming from across America, we've got to echo that in this country. We will not surrender to the forces of tyranny. America could have buckled under the Democrats and been destroyed forever, but instead it's risen like a phoenix from the ashes. We, the British people, we've taken too much for too long. We rose up against the European Union. We have to rise up now against this Labour government and speak out, be bold. You know, I might face court cases again in the future. Other members of our party might face court cases. You know, we could be, you're not allowed to say what we're saying, but all we're saying is the truth. All we seek is justice and fairness and democratic rights, liberty. That's all we seek. What has been traditionally the British way of life. We're not the radicals. We're not the extremists. Keir Starmer has talked about extremists. They're the extremists for wanting to destroy our way of life. Stuart.
The UN replacement migration, which is not a conspiracy theory, it's all part of destroying our society. If you've got inept leaders, a society that's going to end up violence probably on the streets, which we don't want, but it's probably inevitable the way that it's going when certain people want their own Sharia law, etc., in this country, which is disgusting. But I do think that if everything falls apart and we've got inept leaders, do the globalists then come in and sort everything out? So problem, reaction, solution. I think that's a possibility. You can see it in Europe. Hopefully, the EU Commission and everything like that, Parliament, I think, will possibly break up. There are countries that are not being allowed to say no to something, being forced to take a certain number of migrants. So it's all being done deliberately. It's all being financed through George Soros, Jewish charities, Christian charities.
Yeah, Middle East Forum, the Arabian Gulf states, yeah, and China, don't forget, all around the world.
Thing is, our freedoms are slowly but surely being chipped away, destroying us. We need to get together. We need to unite. We need to, in one voice, say no more. No more immigration, legal or illegal. And when you talk illegal migration, that word illegal, what does it mean? It means you've broken the law. What happens when you break the law? You've faced the penalty. You go to court, you get jailed. Again, our jails full of people that are foreign. What are they doing in our jails? They've committed a crime. Send them back. A rape case. We go, oh, rape them, 6 years. Disgusting.
Then we can't send them back, can we?
Well, if we had an agreement with Pakistan to send them back so that they face the sentence in their country. In Pakistan, it's illegal to rape.
Yeah, we've got. Listen, Stuart. Let me just interrupt. There is that agreement is with Pakistan. We are supposed to be able to send people back who have done crimes and stuff like that, but because of other laws like the 1951 Refugee Convention, the ECHR, ECHO, because of these laws, it makes it a lot more difficult. But we do already have that in place with Pakistan. Just thought I'd throw in there.
It's great to see that Donald Trump has started to pull America out of these globalist institutions. These people like the WHO or, this Paris Climate Change Agreement, all this nonsense, they think they've got the right to come into our country and dictate to us, as Stuart just said. In Europe, they've just done it in Romania. The Romanians were going to elect the president. He said, we don't want him, so you're not having an election. You see, Trump's won, but the globalists are still on the march. As Stuart said, the likes of Soros, the likes of Bill Gates, and all these sort of billionaires, they're still trying to throw their weight around and dictate to the world. We've got the Pops to winning, though. We're turning the tide on them, and we've got to win this battle. And it's really important that we stand up in Britain, that we show courage, that we show the courage of our convictions and speak out, name what's happening, notice it, acknowledge it, and let's fight for our freedoms. Because if we lose our freedoms, as Stuart said, they're being chipped away. This Labour government would lock us all up. They're like a Stalinist regime. Don't forget, Stalin killed millions of Russian people. He put them in the Gulag. These people will put any dissenters in the Gulag. They don't respect our liberty. We're not hate mongers. We're standing up for the liberty and the traditions of Britain, and as our forefathers did. And when push comes to shove, we have to fight at times for these rights. We have to really put up. If you lose your liberty, it's not worth living. You're just a slave of the system. And this is what they want, the globalists. They want to enslave us. We've got to resist that. We've got to assert ourselves. The People's Army, MAGA, make England great again. Let's talk about make Europe great again. Let's rise up against this monstrosity, which is, Stuart said some good stuff there, and we've got to rally. We've got to stand up. John.
Thank you, Paul. Guys, this is the Nationalising Pipe. My name's John Lawrence. I'm in London at the moment, guys. That's where I am, out of London or wherever it is anyway. But so I'm on the fly. Yesterday I was busy at court, but there was no court case. It's been adjourned again, as I said. We did a couple of speeches to honour Peter Lynch, and Patrick Keith brought the banner up. He did want some pictures, but I was definitely speaking and doing some speeches. But the good little speeches, and it just goes to show the two-tier of our system. Remember them, the guys involved in the Manchester airport incident have only just been to court. But the worst bad thing is, I think what's pretty bad is Ruby Cabana's gone guilty, so they're not going to go through any of his evidence. And what will happen? We'll have to get the court documents. Would have to pay for them to see what's said, unless a member of the public or the media will come out with it. But again, that guy's a nasty guy, and everyone who said something when Southport went off, they were all right. I don't know anyone who was wrong. You know what I mean? And they've been locked up, as in the case of Peter Lynch and many others. Daffron Williams, veteran, suffering from PTSD, locked up because of a social media post. And there were plenty of others. Now, I'm not condoning anything. If you set fire to a hotel, you're getting locked up. Whether you're writing for Southport, whatever, you're getting locked up. But people who say things on social media and vent their anger that way, I think, shouldn't be locked up. No, definitely not. Not just for voicing their opinion. And the thing is, everybody was right about the guy. Even at the beginning, it come out that he was a terrible person. his dad is linked to extreme organisations in Rwanda, where he came from. His dad worked in the army there, so we've seen a lot of stuff, and we accept these people over willy-nilly, and then they go to...
Can I just jump in there, John?
Go on.
About that killer, Southport killer, and his dad. I do believe that it was Starmer at the time, being a lefty, said, "Oh, you can't go back to there because you will not face a fair trial." So they gave him asylum. They gave him a house, etc. And as I understand it, the country said, well, if we can't bring him back, at least try him in your country. And they wouldn't do that either. So you got a radical, extremist, possibly genocidal father. That's going to be a nice influence on a young person, isn't it? Going to bring them up nicely and kind and all of that. Which...
Well, we've had this incident already with the Manchester Arena bombing. His parents were linked to American designated terrorist organisations in Libya. They've come over here because they've done something or they've said something to help us. We've invited them over. They've had 5 kids. 2 of them have grown up and blown people up. We've done it already. It's a repeating thing that we do with people from abroad without realising the difference in culture, like Paul said, the backwardness of how they live compared to how we live. And it's just unbelievable. Anyway, guys, listen, it's 3 minutes to 10. And listen, get some donations in, guys. I'll be watching my emails and I want to see some PayPal link donations coming in. We're the National Housing Party. We're not stopping. We're going to have our very own Angie in Liverpool on Thursday around the courts, questioning any media or any senior politicians are there. So Angie's going to be there. And we're going to be keeping close tabs on a few of these different cases. And we've got issues. I mean, I've got some issues myself. A few of us have got issues in the party with like free speech. So, but we do want to talk about it. Remember, it's free speech that saves lives. It's free speech that gets things running properly, because we can talk about it and people can do things and go forward. Patriotic Paul, I'm not going London on 1st of February. Sorry, I can't make any, the 1st or the 5th. I've got something else to do in February. We're visiting an award, actually. We're going to leaflet award where we think we're going to do well for a new member, Ashley, who's well on board with us. So that's what I'll be doing in February. Thank you, Serena. But guys, this is the National Housing Party. Just listen to the awesome and mighty Paul Rimmer. Paul Rimmer, you can't fault Paul's words. Everyone says every week, somebody says, "You hear Paul? Well said, Paul." That's what you say every single week. Because you're not talking with the oil rags, you're talking with the oil cans, guys. You're talking with the oil cans. We've had our Stuart on as well with some wise words. Remember what Stuart said, the influence of these people like George Soros and Bill Gates and these organisations that have such an influence on British politics, which has an influence on our everyday lives, guys. And we want to speak out against it, and so we should be able to speak out of it. Well, this is the National Housing Party. God bless everyone. I'll see you Friday for the late night veteran show. We're just changing the show a bit, but it's going to be exciting. And we'll see you next Tuesday as well. The same time, 8 p.m. every Tuesday, National Housing Party. Any last words, guys?
Yeah, I mean, we stand for justice, we stand for fairness, we stand for freedom. These are important things you can never give away. All these things here in out. It's not only about free speech, it's about the two-tier justice system. John spoke about the rioters facing some imprisonment. Muslim rioters never faced it. They weren't free. And the same happened in America, the J6, the Black Lives Matter was setting cities on fire. They walked free. We need free speech to correct these injustices. And we're in a battle, guys. We're in a battle to save what's special about Britain. Stuart, how's this battle going to finish?
The only way it's going to finish is if we join together. We need to unite. There's no other way. If you've got a little bit here, a little bit there, people moaning here, moaning there, nothing gets done. So we do need to unite. We do need to peacefully protest. We need to come together politically. We need to come together and return to British values, family life. Whether you're religious or not, the basis of Christianity especially is kindness. Treat others as you would like to be treated. That's the way you should start as a base, as a foundation. But if you can't have that, you can't have that conversation, what happens? When free speech is lost, freedom is lost, liberty is lost, and eventually lives are lost. It's a serious business with this government that's running us into the ground. Need a change, not just a change of lib lab con. We need the so-called populist parties to come together. We need to expand together, link together, come together and return to British values. Live by the law. I'm not talking man's law, regulation here, regulation there. Common law, God's law. Whether you're Christian, Islamist, Jewish, Catholic, Methodist, come together, unite. It's the only way forward. And with that,
Yes, definitely, Stuart. Thank you, everyone. Patriotic Paul, yeah, 20th of March, that's Central Manchester, Patriots of Britain. I'll be there. I am still in touch with Joel on Messenger. I am, yeah. And thank you, Andy Marie, the lovely girl in the chat there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Logic. Thank you, everyone. Good night. This is the Nationalising Party. My name's John Lawrence.
good night, everyone.